What happens when you leave everything familiar behind and take a leap of faith into the unknown? Welcome to the Pardon My French podcast, the podcast that chronicles one American's bold, hilarious, and heartwarming journey of trading comfort for croissants and culture shock. Join me as I navigate the enchanting chaos of life in France, learning the language, surviving cultural faux pas, and uncovering the hidden gems that make this country so magical. From laugh out loud mishaps with the locals to soul-stirring moments of self-discovery, each episode is a celebration of reinvention, adventure, and the courage it takes to chase the extraordinary. Whether you're a travel lover, a dreamer, or just curious about what it's like to start fresh in a new country, the Pardon My French podcast is your ticket to inspiration and a little slice of French joie de vivre. So pack your bags. This journey is just getting started. Bonjour, mes amis. Welcome to the Pardon My French podcast, the podcast that takes you along my journey of moving to the U.S. to Paris. My name is Teal, and I am your host, and I'm beyond excited to have you here, especially because this is my very first episode. So, bienvenue, which means welcome in French, and thank you so much for joining me on this wild adventure that we're about to get into. But before we embark on this journey together, I want every single person listening to remember, you carry extraordinary courage and limitless potential, far more than you realize. And on this special day, I want to be more than a voice of inspiration. I want to remind you that I genuinely believe in you, your dreams, and everything you are capable of achieving. So just to get into a little bit about myself, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, specifically PG County, Prince George's County, Maryland, or as we like to call it, Pretty Girl County. So if you know, you know. But growing up in PG County, PG is the richest Black county in the U.S. And growing up there meant I was constantly surrounded by people who looked just like me, people who were thriving, achieving, building legacies. And at the time, I never fully realized how much the environment would shape me. And looking back, it's pretty damn powerful. It showed me that success wasn't just possible, it was also visible. But even in a place filled with Black excellence, there is always another side. A side where complacency crept in, where fear held some people back, where the DMV crime rate was going up, so people didn't really reach too much for their dreams, and where some dreams also just felt like they were so out of reach. But that never stopped me. I'm not just a daughter. I'm a sister, a niece, a friend, a confidant. Literally the list can go on and on. But my journey has taken me through some of the most beautiful and heartbreaking moments of my life. My mother, my rock, my foundation, she raised me as a single mother. And luckily, her and my dad had the best friendship relationship. They had a bond that went beyond co-parenting. And my dad has shown up for me in every way possible, no questions asked. And in 2015, my world shattered. I lost my mom suddenly and unexpectedly. I found her lifeless. And in that moment, it changed me in ways that I'm still uncovering. The grief was heavy, almost unbearable. My sister and I carried that weight, trying to make sense of a loss that made no sense at all. But even in the darkest moments, I gained something. Angels and my family has shown up for me in ways that words can't even describe. And in the middle of all that grief, I knew one thing for sure. I had to finish what my mother had started. She always wanted me to complete my education. So at 20 years old, I packed my bags, left everything familiar behind, and moved across the country to Los Angeles, California. And I chased my dream at attending the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. I was thinking I was the Black Lauren Conrad, if you know. And I quickly climbed the ladder in the fashion industry. I worked with brands, built relationships, and literally I was on my way into greater things. And since I was a little girl, Kimberly Simmons has always been a role model and inspiration for me. I've always wanted to be a mogul, a philanthropist, a woman in control of her own destiny. And for a while, it felt like I was on that track to be just that, especially during my time in California. And then life threw another curveball. 5 years later, I moved back to the DMV, and the place that once felt like home now felt heavy. a reminder of everything I had lost. COVID changed everything. I felt like I was failing, like life had spun out of control, depression and anxiety had crept over, and self-doubt had crept in. I started second guessing myself, questioning my worth, and shout out to my therapist, but therapy has helped me pull myself out of that dark space. Slowly but surely, but time does heal all. And then love came, or at least what I thought was love. A 3-year relationship where I truly believed I had found my person, where we moved in together, built a life. I mean, by the age 27, y'all, I thought I had it all mapped out. But deep down, I knew he wasn't for me. We had different goals, different dreams, different realities, and that was okay. Walking away was hard, but staying would have been harder. Every twist, every setback, every heartbreak, it all led me here to a new season, a new chapter, and now I'm stepping into something different, something bigger, because the journey isn't over. It's just beginning. After that breakup, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was grieving, not because I had lost a partner, but because I had to let go of the future that I had once imagined. And then a week later, something unexpectedly happened. My godmother showed up at my door. She handed me a book and simply said, Saturday, 9 a.m., be ready with the first chapter read. And till this day, I express and have told so many people about this book to the point that they have purchased it. I've purchased it for my coworkers. And that book is The Emotional Intelligence by Gil Hassan. And that moment changed everything. For the first time, I started truly understanding myself, my emotions, the way I process pain, love, and loss. That book had become my foundation for me, helping me navigate life with more self-awareness and clarity. And that journey, the lessons, the growth, the healing, it led me here to this moment, to this podcast, to share, to connect, to be vulnerable, and to remind anyone listening that life will break you, but it will also rebuild you if you let it. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your life needed a reset? Like you were meant for something bigger, but taking that leap felt uncomfortable, or let's just be real, impossible? That was for sure me a few months ago. And I knew I needed to change, but I didn't know exactly what. Flashback to December of 2023. I was having a conversation with my godmother, pouring my heart out about wanting more in life, but not knowing what that more was. And she simply asked me, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? And without hesitation, I remember saying France, specifically Paris, because she had introduced me to Paris when I graduated college in 2018, and I quickly fell in love with the city. What was even more funnier is that earlier that day, we had been working on our vision boards, and my word for the year was brave. Now, I want y'all to hold on to that word. Trust me, it is very, very important. And I had told her that I wanted to learn a new language, something that would truly challenge me. And I chose French. And I remember even saying that during this transition of embarking a new year, or, if you're into, New Year's resolution, or, just simply having goals, those are my personal goals. And I remember even spiritually, I felt a guidance about who my future partner would be. And it wasn't someone from the US. It was someone who can open me up to new perspectives and cultures. And in my mind, a French man. Now, fast forward to spring 2024, my Pilates instructor, who happens to be from Paris, told me something that changed everything. After class one day, she looked at me and said, Teal, you're young, single, no kids, and you work remotely. Why not travel, or why not relocate? You're about to turn 30. This is the perfect time to see the world. And at that time, I didn't act on any of this. I just kept all those little nudges. My godmother's question, my vision board, my Pilates instructor's advice. In the back of my mind, I wasn't ready to fully face them. Not quite yet. But here's where things get scary AF. I don't know if you all are spiritual believers, believe in God, the universe, or whatever higher power resonates with you. But this is where everything took a wild turn. It was Mother's Day weekend, and my godmother, godbrother, and I decided to step out for some fresh air and coffee. And we ended up at her local shopping center, Starbucks. And the line was ridiculously long. That's when super sweet gentleman suggested that we try the Starbucks inside the Barnes & Nobles. So we walked into the bookstore, and a bright yellow book immediately caught my eye. I wasn't even paying attention to the title or cover. I just picked it up and flipped it to the first page, and that's when I saw it. A quote my late mother used to say to my sister and myself. It read, "You only have one mom, and when I'm gone, I'm gone." That phrase had always stayed with me, but in that moment, it hit differently. It felt like she was speaking directly to me through the pages of that book, breathing life and encouragement into me. Emotionally, I felt sad that she wasn't here in the flesh, witnessing all the signs and all the experiences that I had encountered. But I had to remember, she was always with me throughout this journey and was always guiding me. Spiritual guidance has always been a profound force in my life and journey, and there's something so powerful about moving in the spirit versus being led by the flesh. It hits different, and too often I think we overlook the signs, dismissing them as coincidences, when in reality, they're divine nudges steering us in the right direction. And when we finally recognize them, we realize they've been shaping our path all along, leading us towards something greater. And the difference between spiritual and earthly guidance is profound as well. Earthly guidance is often rooted in logic, societal expectations, and what feels safe. But spiritual guidance, that's where faith, intuition, and divine timing come into play. And it's about trusting what we feel rather than just what we see. And when we learn to lean into that, the trajectory of our lives shift in ways we have never imagined. So after grabbing our drinks, we headed back to my godmother's house. And as we settled in, my godbrother handed me a book out the Barnes & Noble's bag. And I was so confused because it was the book that I was looking through. And he was nowhere to be found, y'all. We went into Barnes & Noble's, okay? He was in the back of the store. We were in the front. That book just mysteriously just captured my attention. But for some reason, seeing it at the house had me like, what the fuck? But somehow he picked it up for me without me saying a word. And when I looked over at the cover for the first time, my heart sank. It showed a mother and daughter walking together near the Eiffel Tower, and I froze immediately. The book slipped out my hands as tears streamed down my face and as that heat wave of tingleness hit my body. And for myself, I've always said, when I feel like that, my mother's spirit was there. She was there. And the crazy thing was the name of the book was Things I Wish I Would Have Told My Mother. And call it divine intervention or perfect timing, but the signs were so undeniable. At that moment, I knew this was more than a coincidence. It was God's confirmation, and it was definitely my mother's voice telling me to go, to take the leap of faith that I had been hesitating on. Her spirit was just so present, encouraging me to pursue my dreams without fear. During that time of shock, my godmother stepped in and just hugged me and wiped my tears away. And my godmother has been one of the most influential forces in my life. When my mom passed in 2015, I was just 20 years old, trying to navigate life without her. But my godmother stepped up in every way possible, filling in those spaces that I didn't even know I needed at the time. And now at 30, I look back and see how much she has shaped me, teaching me my worth, my value, and the power of chasing my dreams. I will forever be grateful for her love, her guidance, and her unwavering support. And she's not just a mentor. She's one of my biggest cheerleaders, my rock. And I truly believe that my mom and God has placed her in my life for a reason. So to experience such a powerful moment of divine confirmation in her presence, let alone in her house, it was nothing short of incredible. It was literally like God was whispering, "You're on the right path." And to have someone with such pure intentions and energy by my side, pouring into me as I continue this journey, that's a blessing beyond words. So you know what? Shout out to you, to my godmom. I love you and I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And I just remember from that day, I was laser focused. That moment gave me all the clarity and determination I needed to make sure that I didn't let go of this opportunity. It was the turning point, the moment I went to work. And I haven't looked back since. When I got home, I stood in front of the huge whiteboard above my desk, knowing I needed a plan. If you know anything about Virgos, and if you are one, then you'll get this. We thrive on structure, details, and execution. We don't just wing it. We pretty much map everything out step by step, and that is it. But let me tell you, this felt so out of whack for me. Normally, I would have had every detail laid out, an itinerary, a budget breakdown, a backup plan for my backup plan. But something in me spiritually just kept saying, just book your flight and secure your place to rest, and that's it. Emotionally, booking this flight felt like a deep sigh of relief, a release that I didn't even know I was holding on to. But getting to that moment, it wasn't easy. It felt like God was testing me in every way possible before I can even take this leap. And in the weeks leading up to this, life threw some pretty unexpected challenges my way. I mean, damn, I had family health scares, even my own. And in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, can I really do this? Is this the right time? And I remember going to the doctors and my nerves was eating me away. And a friend came with me for support. And I can't tell you how much that itself meant to me. In my heart, I had already decided that I wasn't going to book this flight until I got through that appointment, until I had some reassurance that everything was okay. So sitting in that waiting room, which is, as you all know, it's so daunting, so nerve-wracking. And my mind was racing, just thinking the worst. But when the doctor finally came back with my results, I exhaled, and before I can even process it all, I was able to have that sense of release, but also know, like, damn, you went through it and you are now at that point where you have no roadblock in front of you. And I remember calling my sister afterwards saying, I'm all clear. And she was like, well, you can now book your flight, sis. And that moment was everything. It was the final green light that I needed. And it was also a reminder that sometimes fear is just a roadblock. We place it in front of ourselves and we never really know how to navigate it. But once we push past it, once we stop waiting for the perfect moment, that's when life starts to unfold in the most beautiful ways. And for once, I didn't second guess it. I didn't stress over the unknown. I just listened. I surrendered to the process, trusting that everything else would fall into place. And it did. So I did something bold that night. At 11:54 p.m., I booked my one-way ticket, packed my life into 3 suitcases, and said goodbye to everything familiar and hello to the unknown. And looking back now, that decision brought me exactly what I needed: peace, clarity, and a stress-free start to this journey. I want you to pause for a moment right here, right now, and I want you to close your eyes if you need to. Think about that dream, that goal, that vision you have for yourself, the one that set your soul on fire. Now ask yourself, what's standing in your way? What's holding you back from making it a reality? Is it fear? Is it doubt? The opinions of others? Whatever it is, acknowledge it, but don't let it define you, because every obstacle is just a challenge waiting to be overcome. And trust me, you are more than capable. Of course, with the love and support of my family and friends, I was able to embrace the excitement of this journey. But naturally, not everyone shared that excitement. Some people were shocked when I told them I was moving to Paris. You know, why Paris? Why so far? In my mind, I'm like, haters. But they asked me with such wide eyes, y'all, that it was almost as I had announced I was moving to another planet. And here's the thing. Anything you do, something out of the ordinary, something that pushes past comfort zones, people will try to make you question yourself. And it's not always malice or, ill intent, but sometimes their fear of the unknown becomes the whispers in your ear. making you second guess your own path. And hell, I'll be lying if I said I wasn't discouraged at times, but I had to remind myself who I was and where God was placing me in my life. The reality is, for one, I have no kids. Two, I'm not married. And three, I have the freedom to take this leap. And what I realized quickly, many of the people questioning me weren't really doubting my decision. They were projecting their own fears, their own limitations. So if you are facing doubt, whether from yourself or from others, here's what helped me push through. Trust your why. Go back to the reason why you're doing this. If your dream is pulling you in a direction, trust that it is for a reason. And also separate your fears from realities. Ask yourself, am I afraid because there's an actual risk or because I'm stepping into the unknown? Most of the time, it's the latter. My favorite one ever is to limit who you listen to. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your journey, and protect your energy and lean on the people who actually uplift you. And lastly, take it one step at a time. I'm a Virgo who's very meticulous and very detail oriented, but take it one step at a time. Fear thrives on the big picture, so break it down. Book the flight, find a place to stay. Take the next small step. Fear is loud, but your purpose is louder. And looking back now, I'm so glad I didn't let the outside voices dictate my decision, because this journey, it was meant for me. You know those moments in life where everything shifts, where you stand on the edge of something new, something unknown, but somehow you're just supposed to be there. That's what this moment was for me. Leaving for Paris wasn't just about moving to a new city. It wasn't just about following a dream. It was about stepping into a version of myself that I had been preparing for, whether I realized it or not. But before I got to that moment, before I handed over my bags, before I walked through those airport doors, I had to sit with everything that had brought me there. The years of searching, the quiet nudges from God, the doubts, the fears, the moments I almost convinced myself to play it safe. This wasn't just about a plane ticket. This was about faith, about alignment, about stepping into what I was meant for. And it all started that morning, the day of my departure. And the morning of my departure, I felt the most excited, calm, and just ready. I was ready for this next chapter. I was ready for whatever was waiting for me in Paris. My family and I started the day at Milk and Honey Cafe for brunch. We enjoyed our last few hours together before heading over to Dallas Airport. And it hadn't fully hit me yet. The weight of this moment, the emotions brewing beneath the surface. It wasn't until I handed over my bags at the airport, not until I turned and saw my father looking at me. His eyes filled with tears, as I know those were tears of joy. That's when I lost it. I stood there, y'all, surrounded by the most important people in my life. My sister, my godbrother, my godmother, and my father. My support system, my foundation. And as much as my heart ached in that moment, I knew I had to breathe. I had to wipe my tears. Side note, I'm about to wipe my tears again. And keep moving forward, because I had come too far to turn back now. And child, shoot, I'd be damned if I wasn't getting on that United flight to Paris. With one last wave goodbye, I stepped into the airport and took a deep breath and made my way to the Turkish Airlines lounge. And I gave myself a moment to just eat, reply to messages. Shoot, I did order me some champagne, which was bussin'. Definitely needed that. But I also gave myself time to just sit in the surreal in-between space. And doing that helped me so much, because the next step was boarding that flight. A flight filled with dreams, with uncertainty, with the reality of finally chasing what I was meant to do. And I remember the moment so vividly. I got a free seat upgrade from United, so thank you, United Airlines. And as I settled into my seat, I remember I closed my eyes and took a deep breath and whispered a prayer. And I asked God for safe travels, for protection, and most importantly, for God to open my heart and my mind as I stepped into the unknown. I had no idea what was ahead of me, no guarantees, no perfect plan, just a calling that I couldn't ignore. But in that moment, I chose faith over fear. I surrendered to the journey, knowing that whatever was waiting for me on the other side, I was meant to walk into it. It felt so surreal, almost like time had slowed down. And deep in my spirit, I knew this wasn't just a leap of faith. This was divine alignment. The Holy Spirit was guiding me, moving through me, preparing me to step fully into this purpose. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't look back. To tie back my word of the year, brave, y'all still remember that word, right? I was brave enough to go through this spiritual movement that has now shaped and molded me into the woman I am still becoming. And little did I know choosing that word would make me build up bravery to just get up and to go into the world lonesome without knowing anyone. I say all this to say, choose your words wisely, because little did I know it would depict my life. I know my story might sound simple, almost too simple, but the truth is it really was. We all have fear, that little voice in our heads that make us hesitate, that tells us we're not ready, that convinces us to stay where it's safe. But what if we stopped listening to that voice? What if instead we leaned into the unknown and trusted that we are more capable than we think? I hope that by sharing my journey, I've given you more than just a story. I hope I've given you a spark, a reminder that whatever is sitting on your heart, whatever your dream has been whispering to you, you can go after it. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't luck. It wasn't a flawless plan. It was faith, resilience, and a dream that I refuse to let go of. And sometimes that's all you need to get where you're meant to be. So if you're waiting for that sign, this is it. I want you to take that step, bet on yourself, because the life that you want is already waiting for you. It just needs you to show up. So give yourself grace as I leave you with this. And that is a wrap for today's episode of the Pardon My French podcast. But trust me, this is just the beginning. This season on the Pardon My French podcast, we're diving into everything from my first moments in Paris to the highs and lows of French apartment living, plus the real challenge, navigating the language with the locals. Let's just say the adventure was only getting started. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear that extra push. And if you're on your own journey to something new, I love to hear about it. Send me a DM on Instagram at the Pardon My French podcast. And until next time, I be in too.